Hi, I'm Nikita.
And I'm Jabri, and you're listening to Be Do Have, a podcast about our personal journey that led us to create who we want to be, do things from that place of being to have what we want and need.
Thank you for joining us as we explore several different love and fear based concepts and the experiences we draw to ourselves because of those powerful energies. So, hello, everyone. This week we'll be talking about religious trauma, and we have a special guest, Crystal, who is very near and dear to my heart. She's a really good friend of mine. But before we jump into the topic, we'll just share any highlights from our week. So I'll go first. My week was dry. I don't have anything really to report, anything really to share that kind of stuck out. It was, a pretty mundane week. I just kind of went through the motions, and now I'm here. So how about you? I was about to say, Chris. How about you, Jabri?
Um, I didn't really have any epiphanies. I know we recorded late, so we actually recorded on Monday instead of our typical Sunday. So that conversation actually led to a couple of let me put a pin in that and come back to it at a later time kind of moments. So yeah, I put a pin in a couple things and I will come back to them probably next month. Um but this I don't know, like this kind of week, like Tuesday, Wednesday, I really kind of felt like I turned and transitioned from internalizing or just holding on to a lot of things that I was trying to get rid of over the past couple of months. I like actually was like, oh, okay, this is getting a little bit lighter, but nothing major. I mean, just going on with the get along, trying to make it through this May. How
I
about you,
heard
Crystal?
that.
You know what? And I haven't talked to you about this, Nikita, but I kind of hit like a very soft rock bottom.
I
It was
love how
really light.
I love how you romanticize that.
She
But go
said a
ahead.
soft.
Soft
There
rock.
were there were pillows at the bottom, and so like after hitting it, I was like emotionally drained. But on the other side of that, I'm like so much freer. I felt like a soda being shaken up. And then once you explode, all the pressure is gone and you're just allowed to relax. So I'm kind of relaxing after my storm.
I heard that. So hopefully we can get into that, that turmoil and that turbulence that you were experiencing as we jump into the podcast. So just to kind of extend to what Krista was saying, too much of anything can be detrimental to your overall being, including church. And speaking from personal experiences, even on my spiritual journey, there are times when I first discover something new. And I want to keep exploring that and digging deeper. And those waves would come back to back to back to back to back to where I'm like, so many things would pop up and I would learn, kind of peek into so many doors that I want to kind of explore. Um, so I'm on a current break of just like being, I'm on a just be break, where my higher self and my intuition is telling me to just stop, like fucking stop and just be for a moment, absorb and sit in what I already know. Don't try to take anything else in right now. Don't do anything. Just be and just live for right now. So, like I mentioned before, Crystal and I are really good friends, and she's shared with me and she's actually taught me how being too entangled with anything can sometimes do more harm than good. And I don't want to speak for her and say that, that's what church did to her. So I'll just kind of let her speak for herself and we can just jump right into this to the topic. So just starting off, Crystal, just tell us about your experiences with religion.
Well, I will say that I was born into church. Like, so from literally in my mom's arms, as a newborn on up, probably until maybe my late teens, 20ish is when I kind of cut ties. But I took it very literal. Growing up, they teach you that this is truth, this is real. And so I took it as truth, I took it as real. I took it as something that was 100% possible and that I could do. Mostly, the be ye perfect part, as I am perfect. And so, while I was in church, I was trying to be perfect so I can be saved, from hellfire and whatnot. And then when you're listening to your leader say, I'm perfect and you can also be perfect. But then when you yourself, you're like, oh, well, I had this thought. I did that thing. I was looking at that and I won and it wasn't mine. You kind of say, well, I'm not being perfect. So it causes a lot of stress and turmoil within yourself because you're kind of chasing something that isn't real. And recently, as of late, I've kind of been addressing both of those sides of myself, the good and the bad, because you're going to have bad thoughts. Like, you're going to look like, I can look at you, Nikita, and say, oh man, Nikita looks so good today. I'm so jealous. You're going to have those thoughts, which I can say, you know what, that's my lowest self, and I'm not going to give into it. I'm going to be my higher self and say, oh, Nikita looking so good today. I'm so happy for her. Whatever's going on in her life, I'm happy for her. But when I was in church, I would have, those thoughts, those lower thoughts. And I would feel horribly guilty because I couldn't stop them. I couldn't control them. They would come into my head and I would kick them out, but they would still be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm thinking that, people are walking around being perfect, like Christless, because they're saying that they're perfect. So I'm chasing that same level of perfect, when in reality, it's not possible. So that's like an intro. That's the beginning of my story.
I mean, absolutely. And I can relate to you 100%. Not so much as like me growing up in the church, and that's what I learned in the church, but just, I guess I want to say just me being a Virgo and always trying to present myself as being a perfectionist and really like I'm fucking about to implode, internally, but I can't let anybody see that. I can't, it's almost like you're suffering in silence where
Yeah.
you have all of this going on inside of you and I completely look the other way and I'm doing myself a disservice by trying to just suppress those feelings and suppress those thoughts and it's really, really refreshing when you talk about it because you hear other people like, oh yeah, I experienced that too. And it's like, oh my God, like I'm not the only one
Yeah.
that feels this way. It's like every time that I've,
Yeah.
gone against the grain and, what I know and what how I would normally respond and react to a situation. Like I've always found comfort and reassurance from like other people when I opened up and asked for help and let that imperfect side or what I perceive as an imperfect side of myself out and let it be shown. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's not so bad. So,
Absolutely. Because I feel as if just in chasing perfection, it has absolutely, chasing perfection will delay you. It will stop you from completing things because you're trying to reach perfection. And I recently learned that nothing's ever perfect. It's so funny because several good things have happened recently in my life, things that I have been chasing for forever. For forever, I was chasing a healthy credit score. Finally got a good credit score, like I don't want to brag, but it's like I'm impressed with myself. I paid off all my credit cards. I have this good job, and I was, I'm like, I should be happy. And I'm like, but this doesn't do anything for me. And I was chasing those things because I thought they equated to a perfect life. You know what I mean? I thought my credit score, my good, healthy credit score, I mean, it's a good life. It definitely makes life better, but it's not necessarily what I wanted. So it doesn't make me happy. It's what society said would make me happy. So I did those things. I know we're veering off from religious trauma, but my need for perfectionist really does stem from, trying to be perfect. So I'm trying to be perfect in all these areas, and perfect just it's not possible.
now when you kind of equate it back to church, are you saying like trying to be like Christ-like? When you say, oh, trying to be perfect, trying to
You know
be,
what? I believe that was the starter, the seed of my need for perfection. You know what I mean? I believe it's like, okay, I can't be perfect in my thoughts like Christ was, because I'm messing up there. So I can't be perfect there, but I can
Ruin
be
in the
perfect in
legacy.
this area or in that area. So I feel as if just from something little, it just snowballed into something very big. So I think I talked to you about this, Nikita, because ultimately the only thing that I could really control and get perfect was my own weight in my own body. And again, like I was never satisfied with my own weight in my own body, but my body was the one thing I was truly able to say, oh, I can get to 115. So I'm going to get to 115. I can control that. And society says that that's a perfect weight for a woman because, so little things that snowballed into big things. There were other things along the way.
Makes sense. Before we jump into the second question, I do just want to comment on one thing that you said because Jabri and we did a podcast about envy. And I feel like when you would say that you would be at church and your thoughts would kind of go and wander and you would feel bad about it because instead of saying, oh my God, I'm so happy for this person that they gained whatever success or, whatever it is that they were wanting, they finally got. And you would maybe have a thought like, I don't know what that thought was, but it was probably something along the lines of, I wish that would be me too, or I want that, or she doesn't deserve that, or, all of the above. Like that's actually a good thing. It's a natural emotion and it's just your body's way of telling you that you want that too, but that not only that you want it and that you desire it, but you can also have it. So
Okay, I like that.
yeah, that's actually, yeah, envy is a good thing. Now, if it's jealousy and it's like, I hope she gets a divorce, when you find out somebody's married, or I hope she get fired from that really good job. That's different. But if it's
Yeah.
an envious emotion and it's just, something that you see that you want for and someone else that you want for yourself, that's actually, God's way, your body's way, your intuition's way of telling you that,
I like that. You can get it
that's,
too. I
yeah, you
like
can get it
that.
too. hmm
But
Because
I think for me, ultimately, that was an example. But so I will tell you a situation that recently happened. And I have separated into my higher self and my lowest self is what I call these two sides of me. Because I'm like, you have these thoughts. And I know recently, so to keep a long story short, very short, I'll have to go into details. But I was in this class that I paid 13K for, this boot camp that I did not pass. And when I didn't pass, I was like, oh well, so and so didn't pass either, so I kind of felt better, and I didn't like that thought. And then also, I felt really bad about the situation that I was in, but I was like, oh well, look at so and so, they're also dealing with this too, so you're better off. And I didn't like that because I just reached out to my higher self and I'm like, well, yes, I'm in a situation and they're in that situation, but it's not a good situation for any of us to be in. So that's what I meant by like, you have these thoughts, but you don't have to be those thoughts, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
yeah, for sure, for sure. All right. So religion isn't all bad.
No, not at
So
all.
can you kind of just tell us how you've benefited from the church and from your religion?
I will say I lived a very sheltered life, and my parents protected me from a lot of different things. And so, I mean, some people think, and I can say being overly sheltered isn't a good thing, but when I look at the lives of my peers, people my own age that I've grown up with, and I see some of the things that they've gotten into, whether it's drugs or whether it has been crime, I know that with my mom being in the church and raising us there and keeping us there, and not even like the message itself, but just physically being there. You're physically there, so you can't be out getting into trouble. It kept us out of a lot of things. So, I mean, I think I benefited from it that way. As I've gotten older, I really love the idea of just being able to believe, like believing in something will make it real. And religion teaches that across the board, not just Christianity,